Hey everybody, how's it going? We were just making robot noises. Check out this is a very bright shirt. By the way, this reminds me of, this is my friend's company called Caffeine TV. If you're a gamer, check them out. It's incredible, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here for the Daily Creative. This is a show where I answer your questions on your journey to become a professional or aspiring creative. We got about 100 questions answered so far. Love the feedback. If you want your question on the show, 802-962-4357. I'm gonna answer 2 questions, count them, 2 today. The first one is right here, is a voicemail left by...
Hi Chase, my name is Aaron Bullock. I am at Aaron A. Bullock, AARONABULLOCK on Instagram. I do a lot of car photography. First of all, I just want to say thanks for everything you do. Your YouTube channel, all the content you put out, everything you're doing with CreativeLive, absolutely amazing stuff. I love what you do. So thank you for everything that you do for the creative community. My question for you has to do with aesthetic, actually. And my concern is I get so used to my own editing style that it feels like I can't look at different images and feel inspired, if that sounds or makes sense at all. It's like you get so used to doing your own editing, your own, compositions, whatever it is that you take pictures of and how you edit them, that it's kind of hard to see something new, if that makes sense. So my question for you then would be kind of, how do you break out of that? How do you kind of refresh your mind and kind of see the difference between a raw, unedited image versus something that you've edited, something you've thought about compositionally, thought about, from an aesthetic point of view, and then just, kind of see that difference there. And then also, how do you, find new inspiration outside of what it is that you're doing? I hope that question makes sense. But thanks again, Chase. I really appreciate it.
All right. I got you. Well, there's a couple things in there that how do you what is a little bit in there about personal style, and then about how do you break out of ruts, get out of a rut that you're in. So I'm gonna split those 2 answers, or your question, into 2 separate. The answer to your question in 2 separate parts. The first is around that individual. You should watch a video that I did called "Developing Your Personal Style." It's the single most important thing you can do as an artist, because if you're always walking through the woods and doing something else, your work's never going to be recognizable. So that's the number one challenge I see with the portfolio reviews that I've done and we've done here on CreativeLive and other places, is there's not a consistent theme, vision to the work. One of the things where I knew I'd started making real headway was when I was in very, very early Twitter or Blogger, and I could put an image up there and they would say, I knew before I even looked at whose image it was that it was yours. And that means you have a very distinct personal style, whatever you're shooting. I've been told that I can shoot still lifes and action sports, and people can sort of recognize the style if you're familiar at all with my work. And that is a goal, that is a thing, and that is a very valuable thing, because it is through personal style that the people who actually buy photography or hire photographers, and the same is true, this is absolutely true. Let's talk about design for a second. Think about Aaron Draplin, the designer. Aaron, we've got to get you on the show here pretty soon, but Aaron has an absolute distinct style. All his stuff is in it, and you can say I don't want to just be pigeonholed into one thing. No, that's a good thing. It's your personal style. And your personal style doesn't mean everything looks the same. It means everything has the same flavor, or everything has the same elements to it, despite the actual content. The content can change, but the flavor, the je ne sais quoi, I'm just bringing in the French. There needs to be a consistent thread, a vibe. What is the vibe of your work? So most folks that I don't know how long you've been in the creative professions, or if you're just aspiring, most people burn out on their own style before other people do. People are just starting to recognize it. So how can you then continue to evolve within your style? I wouldn't just be going pew, pow, pew. Well, first of all, if you haven't found your style, you do need to be all over the place. You need to practice, you need to hustle, you need to figure out. It's really only through repetition that actually can happen. So go watch that How to Develop a Personal Style video. But let's say you figure that out, and then you're always sort of kind of honing it a little bit, and we'll talk about that more in a separate video, but it's what can you do to take pictures of different sorts of things and have them fall into that same style, whether it's composition or color or post-processing. You've talked, I think that was really the base of the question that you were asking. But I do want to shift gears for a second. I want to talk about that other, the rut in a macro. So I'm going to summarize, actually, sorry, the first part. Keep doing it. Refine it. Evolve it. Tweak it. But make sure that when you pick up your work, you can see a very consistent thread. Again, number one problem I see when I'm reviewing people who are not far along in their creative pursuits, when I look at their portfolio, it's like all over the place and there's not a great theme or a great thread. So you should be editing your work for that thread. You should be putting those things in a portfolio. You get it. Second half of that is, and I think maybe this certainly applies to a lot of people. I've had this question before, but I'm going to answer it, I think, in a little bit of a unique way. So when you're in a rut, a creative rut, there's sort of two types of ruts. There's the micro rut, which is like, I'm stuck on this problem right here and this thing I need to fix, this photo, this design, this piece of music, this whatever it is. And then there's the big picture, like I'm creatively empty. I'm in a macro creative rut where I'm not being inspired, and what's like, how do I break through this? I haven't got any work in a long time, and yada, yada, yada. I'm going to treat those two things differently. The micro ruts, you should have a couple of things going. I've heard somewhere, I don't know where to quote this, but that it's great to have like 5 things going at once. And that way, when you get blocked on one, you can actually go work on a different thing. And it's the working on the different thing that will move that thing forward and free your mind up from the block that was happening over here, such that when you go back to this thing, either the next day or the next hour or later in the same day or whatever, you're gonna like, oh, you can look at it from a slightly new perspective. We've all done this, especially when it gets late and the hours are long and it's hard. You're just like, it's like banging your head and it's like you're not getting anywhere. I appreciate going to work and doing the work despite not maybe being inspired, but try shifting your attention to something else. This is where I'm gonna sort of put a pin in this and say, I do enjoy like taking a walk and changing my scenery if there's not another project to go on. That's kind of like one day to the next. Maybe if you're throwing pots, you go to a different pot. Sometimes when you're on the photo shoot, there's not another place to go. You got to finish this picture before you move on. So consider taking a break. What can you do to break up your routine in that given moment? Go back and look at the reference materials, talk to some friends about some ideas, take a walk, get some food, clear your head, change your state. That's, to use it again, I love Tony Robbins. I think he does a great job of helping people understand that their physiology, your creativity, your mind and body, they're all connected. Change your state. It's going to change what goes on in your mind and ultimately, likely, your creativity. So that is the small right now stuck. The other bigger stuck is I'm in a rut. Like I need to figure a new style out. I'm not getting hired. And in this case, I like to prescribe adventure. Get out. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get in a plane and fly to Italy and walking up and down the Amalfi Coast in the sunshine and smelling the sea and the sand, and that's great if you can do that. But sometimes get out means like go to the farmer's market, means take a super long hike through some woods, get out and let it rain on your body, get outside, move the body. That is very, very good. See that earlier point I made about changing your biochemistry. But also like adventure, go to places where not everything is very familiar. It's when your mind has to sort of look at things that it doesn't see on a day-to-day basis that you are able to break out of those ruts. The science is pretty clear that kind of a change can change the neural pathways, how your brain's working. So I like adventure, and it doesn't mean expensive, far. It can be a walk. It can be going to a meal that you've never had before. You don't need a lot of Ethiopian food. Go check out Ethiopian food. Hopefully you get that point. And then experiment. Like that's a thing that if you've had some success finding a personal style or finding any success in creativity, or this could same for entrepreneurship, building a business, what are you doing to experiment? Like if you don't have a system by which experimentation, trial and error, failing, A/B testing in the technology world or whatever, if you don't have a system for that, you're going to get stuck a lot sooner. So what can you do to continue to have a sandbox where you can goof off, have a sandbox, have a set of an amount of time in your day, have a budget for being crazy. As a photographer, when you're always looking for your next, like, what's the thing I want to do? Are you going to bring a strobe into an action sports world and shoot it in a way that no one's done before at 12 frames a second? And I don't know. But if you've set aside time and money and energy to work on your portfolio and keep evolving, those things don't happen unless you do so, or they happen less successfully than when you plan for them. So the combination of adventure and experimentation and play. I'm gonna categorize all that under play. When you get stuck, play. Can we have this? This is going to be a little excerpt cut. When you get stuck on anything creative and you're just jammed up, play. What did you love to do as a kid? Go do that. Read Charlie Hohn's book called Play It Away. If you're stressed, if you're blocked, play. It is play that will tweak your neural pathways, wake you up, change your biochemistry, and get you back on track. All right. Yeah, hope that's good. This is a caffeine molecule. I don't know if you could, I may or may not have recently consumed caffeine. Today is one of those days where I need it. All right, that's first question. Second question, we're on here the Day of the Creative, and go.
Hey Chase, my name is Ben Liu. My Instagram handle is the Ben Liu, L-E-W.
L-E-W.
To give some context for my question, I'm shooting an assignment for an outdoor company called The Climb in Denali National Park this coming August.
Cool.
But my struggle or my challenge is that I'm trying to do photography full time, and so I have like weddings and everything else in my portfolio. And outdoor industry is where I want to be, where I want to go. And I'm just wondering, man, when will I know how to transition my portfolio to just highlight the outdoor stuff, because I'm still dependent on all these other things, as well as like doing for ministry part-time. And so, yeah, love to hear from you. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Ben Liu, thanks for the call, man. Love this classic question. Classic. And I have the classic answer. This is not going to be a long answer. It's going to be very direct. So you have to have in your portfolio the work that you want to get hired to shoot. This is a paradox, because you're doing the work, and then the work that you're doing is your best, newest stuff, so you want to put it in your portfolio, and if it's in your portfolio, you're going to get hired to do that stuff. This is a cycle that you cannot break unless you do one thing, and that is press pause on that shit, spend your own time and your own money, look at the things that you love and the things you want to be doing out there in the world, and see some work, put that work through your personal filter, and go make that shit. And put that in your portfolio. It's super easy. If that's not in what's in your portfolio, you will not get hired to do it. And a portfolio that has brides and drag racing and male nudes and action sports does not get you hired for action sports. Okay? It doesn't. And those are different communities too. And the people who buy photography, by and large, for those communities are very different. And so it's very hard to participate in the other 50% or be around people who, it's hard to make a name for yourself if you're scattered so thin. So I'm an advocate of building a portfolio with your spare time, money, energy that you can rely on and you want to build to get new work. Now, I understand it. Like, you're still getting paid $5K to shoot a wedding. I get it. I totally get it. Just be socking 4 of that away for making new work, live off 1,000, like eat dirt for a long time so that you can eat caviar doing the thing that you love later, and stop being tempted to continue to market the shit out of this work. You need to be like balancing, like you're juggling with 2 hands, then you need to be juggling with 1 hand, and you're doing the thing that you want to be doing next with this hand on the side, and then you throw this hand up, that ball way up, and then you're juggling over here. And this is wedding. Pretty soon you can throw wedding photography over your shoulder, and you're just finding that you're in action sports or whatever the thing that you want to do is. And here's another one-liner: your portfolio should be like a bonsai tree. Okay, you're always trimming it and shaping it. There isn't a time where you just walk away, because if you just walk away and you come back and you look at that thing, it's gonna be all bushy and not shapely and tight like you want it to, like you can put it out there to get hired for the work you want. It's always kind of constantly trimming and whatnot. Now, notice trim. This is when I'm happy with the genre that I am. I'm evolving. See earlier question. about, how do you stay interested and keep your style tight. You're trimming. Now that works for staying in the same world. If you want to do this leap and it's like drag or weddings and it goes over to action sports, you need to put that on pause and go over here and create this work. It's not like, all this work comes with you in your soul. You're still putting all of the experiences, not just the experience of years photographing in the wedding photography industry, but your life experiences, all that shit, what your mom said to you when you were little and where you grew up and the color of your skin and how much money you have in the bank. All those are filters that you can apply to your work, and because you see the world in a unique way. And that, how can you put more of you into your pictures, whatever your story is? And that's, again, see a video about personal style. That is a different thing than, whatever your personal style is, whatever, like in this world, you should have a personal style with wedding photography, to use your example. But in the case where you want to actually trade and go over here and you're burned out, what a lot of people do is they go from like portrait photography or wedding photography to portrait photography to street photography and this is kind of a natural progression, and that's how I would say you do that, and you can kind of continue to trim that. But if it's this 180, like, drag racing, you said you like to photograph cars, or was that the other last guy? I forget, I think it's this guy. And you want to switch to weddings, or you want to become a designer, don't market your photography. Be focused on design. Okay? Your portfolio has to look like what you want to get hired to shoot. Is there a gray area here? Your portfolio has to have in it what you want to get paid to shoot, what you want to get hired to make, what you want to get hired to design. Okay? If you want to continue to make companies, you're a serial entrepreneur, sure, you're going to evolve, but you need to take things from, look at my background. So I went from a photographer, developed a photo app called Best Camera. That was the app of the year, 2010 or something like that. #1 in the iTunes App Store. And from that, I learned about technology and entrepreneurship, and that led to CreativeLive. And you can see, like, that's a path. You're bringing all that stuff with you. And it's in each of those cases where that's leading to the next thing, because that thing becomes your portfolio. So you have to have the thing that you want to be hired for. You have to have it. Like, go make it. If you don't have it, you're never, because who knows that you can do that stuff unless you're putting it out there. All right, I'm ragging on you. I think it was a fantastic question. I go on about that for a long, long time. I want to say my phone is ringing, so I'm going to turn that off and say thanks again for being a part of the Daily Creative in this community. Leave comments. I respond. I respond as much as I can. I love the community. And if you want your question answered on the show, 802-962, itchy leg, 802-962-4357. Give a comment, give a shout out. Tell me if you're listening to this stuff and you're making progress. I'd love to know about it. Thanks very much. See you again probably tomorrow here on my YouTube channel or on our Facebook or Instagram, probably, where that's one of the 3 things here.